Okay, the first step for building our splay legged table is we are going to be building our long sides and also our short sides for that. And you'll have to look at your cut list for the dimensions of those pieces there, and we're also going to be following the step-by-step, step number 1 instructions. First thing it says is we're going to get a board from the wood storage room, and that's more than 4 inches wide and longer than 45 inches. Okay, in our wood storage room we have a whole bunch of different types of lumber here. They're labeled with what type it is with a little sign and an arrow pointing next to it. So this is all the alder right here. We have oak, maple, cherry, and then we have walnut. We're going to be stocking this with a lot more, and so don't worry if there's not much in there right now. We'll get a whole bunch more. I'm going to be doing alder, and I need to find a board that's at least 4 inches wide and more than 45 inches long. So as I'm measuring a few of these, you notice this one's about 5 inches wide. This one will be just fine, and obviously the length on these things are just fine on all of them. So you don't have to be picky and choose one way in the back. You can just grab any one of these boards that will work for your project. You're going to come to the upcut saw to first trim off any bad part off the end of your board, and then second to cut a length that you need. And if you look on the end of a board, you might have some things that are some scuffs or some cracks, or the end of the board is very rough. We want to make sure we cut all that off first. And usually it just takes trimming it maybe an inch or two past the bad parts. If you have paint on the end or other things like that, we'll take care of that. We also have a knot here. I'm not too concerned about that, but I do have a little notch out of the board up at the front. So I'm probably going to just trim off maybe a little bit past that over there. You could look at the other end of the board and maybe consider using that side instead. And this side actually doesn't look that bad at all. So you still want to get in the habit of trimming off an inch or two just to make sure that it's nice and clean cut before you go. So I'm probably going to use this side. It looks a little better for my board. So we're just going to trim off maybe an inch or two. Up on your upcut saw, we're just going to go a little bit past where it cuts and make a cut. So on your upcut saw, inside you can see where the blade's going to come out, and I just placed the board just a little bit past, an inch or two past where that blade's going to come out. Green on switches here. And we'll step on the foot pedal to get it to engage. After you shut it off, I use the bigger part of my board to press the smaller cutoff piece out of the way so I don't have to reach my hands inside there. So now we've got a nice clean cutoff part of our board to work with, and we're going to go ahead and cut a piece that's 45 inches long. We need to get our board cut to 45 inches, and we can use our automatic adjusting arm here on the upcut saw. You would just type in your measurement that you want it to go to. In this case, we're just going to type in 45 and then hit start. It'll move that arm automatically to 45 inches. And then when you put your board up against there, we just want to make sure we don't slam that arm. So just gently put it right up against there. Make sure your board is nice and tight on the fence. And then we'll go ahead and make this cut. Shut it off, and we can get your board out of there. So your 45-inch long piece should be enough material to get both of your long sides and your 2 short sides out of this one board. Be sure if you have any left over from your original board that it goes back in the wood storage room. It could also go in one of these little cubbies underneath here if it's short enough that we can hang on to. Next, we're going to come to the jointer here and get one edge nice and flat. If you notice on your edge of your board, it's fairly rough. You have 2 edges here. It doesn't matter which edge you choose to joint. I usually look at them and see which one is the easiest one. Whichever one's going to be the most flat already is usually the one I joint. Each time you run your board across here, it's going to take off a 1/16 of an inch, so you may have to run it more than once, as long as we can get that entire edge nice and flat. On button here, if your board is shorter than the fence, we need to make sure we use push sticks. This one happens to be a little bit taller than the fence, so I'm okay with just my hands. Just make sure you curl your fingers so they don't get anywhere near the blade. So in one pass, pretty smooth, and then it didn't hit here or here, so I need to run this again, maybe 2 or 3 more times. Once we've got that edge nice and flat the entire way through, we should be okay. We can shut it off. We're going to use our table saw to get our board cut to a width of 4 inches. And first thing you want to make sure of on the table saw is that your blade height is correct. So you can set your board right next to the blade. We'll lift up our guard here. And I just make sure that the blade is about the height of the teeth above our board. Right now this is a little bit tall, so I'm going to lower that blade down just enough that the teeth height are sticking up above my board, so about right there is good. We need to make sure our fence is at 4 inches, and if you need to adjust it, you can lift up this red handle and you can slide the fence left or right. And we're looking at our little red crosshair on the fence adjustment, and we want it directly at the 4-inch mark. It's kind of hard to see like this, but I'm just going to tap it gently until I get close, right on that 4-inch mark, and I'm going to lock down the handle so it doesn't move on me. So we're ready to make our cut. We want to be sure our flat jointed edge goes right up against the fence, nice and tight. If there's any sawdust or other things in the way, we can clear those out. It's got to have a nice tight fit, and then we'll go ahead and make this cut on the table saw. When you're using the table saw, again, make sure that flat jointed edge is against the fence. And because the fence is at 4 inches here, we definitely want to use a push stick. But I make sure to get the board a little closer before I get the push stick on there. Once your push stick's on, go ahead and push it all the way through. The next step is to come up to the planer and get the thickness of our board to 13/16 of an inch thick. Right now our board is 15/16 of an inch thick, so we're going to have to send it through the planer. If you forgot how to turn it on and other things, we've got that little sheet on top that'll explain step by step how to run the planer. So we're wanting our first pass to be at 14/16, which is only removing a 1/16 at a time, and then our second pass we're going to flip our board over and run at 13/16 of an inch. We're going to twist our stop button, hit that yellow program button, type in the decimal that we want, which is 14/16, 0.875. Hit the enter button, and then the flashing start button. That'll adjust our planer to the right height. And then we will go ahead and turn it on with the green main motor button, and we'll send our board through. On our next pass, we need to make sure we flip our board over to get the other face, and we're going to set this to 13/16. Program, type in your decimal of what 13/16 is, enter, flashing start button. And again, we took it off of this face, so we're going to flip our board over to get the other face planed. The next step has us come up to our time saver sander or wide belt sander and get our board sanded down to 3/4 of an inch. On the planer we only went to 13/16 of an inch thick, and we're going to go to the sander and just get it down to 3/4 of an inch for final pass. Remember, we want to start at the same thickness that it is now for your first pass, and we're going to work our way down by 1/100 of an inch at a time until we get down. So right now we need to set this to the same thickness as my board, which my board was 13/16, so I can just type in that measurement. 812 was 13/16, and then I hit start. Now it'll adjust pretty close to 13/16. It went to 810, which is close enough. That'll be our starting one, and then turning it on, we just got our 2 green buttons here. One of them does the conveyor belt, the other one does the sander. We'll just go ahead and put both those on, and then we'll send our board through. After our first pass, we've changed that dimension by 1/100 of an inch. So our second pass, 0.010 smaller, that would be 0.800. And then we'll go 0.790, and then 0.780, 0.770, all the way down 0.750 should be our final pass. Again, you can just type in the next measurement, 800 start, and it'll adjust automatically. We stand at this stage and we'll flip our board over to get the other side. Our next pass will be 790. You could just type in 790. Another method you can do is tap the up arrow. If you tap it one time, it'll change it by 0.005 of an inch. If you go back, if you tap it twice, it will change it tap tap by 1/100 of an inch each pass, which is what we want. So you can just double tap that up arrow. Last pass at 750. When you're done getting your board cut to size and sent through the planer and the time saver sander, be sure to get your name on your board. There's a lot of people with the same projects, and we want to make sure that your name gets on everything. Then you're going to have me come over to sign off your paper here. You'll bring your board to me, and I'll sign it off, and then you're going to be able to put your paper in the hand-in folder to get points for it. And then you're done with step number 1.